All right. Well, it's day 34. Is that
Day
right?
34.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk
Drop the
about,
hatchet.
well, I mean, if you want to call it that.
Why not?
Well, it is kind of dropping the hatchet because, we're going to talk about the touchiest subject of all. And we're going to talk about a practice that helps us to kind of connect with the touchiest subject of all. So yeah, it's a good day.
It's a good day.
It's an important day. Because it's one of those things that I think that it's almost like a taboo subject at this point in conversation, unless because we're going to talk about the idea of God.
Well, God, the infinite intelligence. Use your own word. As a hermeticist, I don't really give a shit about what the word is that you use. It's like we're all talking about the same thing. It's
Right.
like nobody wants to be that blunt about it, but I can't stand it anymore. So it's just, no disrespect to anybody, but it's like we're all talking about exactly the same thing. The one thing that everything is made of and from. You, me, the floor, the house, the trees, the earth, the stars, the sun, the moon, blah, blah, blah. Everything. So it's just a different aggregation of any of these things, a different aspect of God, the infinite intelligence, whatever, that makes us who we are, or these things what they are. And again, these are just shells, representations. It's not the actual, right? So we're always looking at those four levels of,
And what do you mean by actual?
the actual, what is the, beyond the representation that we see here, right? In psychology, it's the mask in front of you, but it's not really your innermost thoughts and blah, 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 all that pop psychology bullshit, basically. It's basically, it's other ways to sort of couch all this stuff to kind of give it a way for people to understand it. But, let's get down to brass tacks already. This stuff has been just reshaped and reformed over centuries, and in the past century, just dramatically, the way I like to say it, and again, a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's the same candy bar, different wrapper. We put a different name on it. It's like half all of these practices that we're doing, I have seen in other programs under different names. Different little catchy names or catchy terms or whatever it is. Like the fourfold breath, we went over that, right? Fourfold breath. But it's like then, the SEALs use it and they call it box breathing.
Right.
Okay, that's their little term. It's like there's this, that, and the thing. But these are all ancient techniques. These are old techniques. They've just been repackaged and given a new name to sort of say, look, this is new and shiny. We discovered this. We did this. It's like bullshit. It's been around for thousands of years. So, let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And the same thing with this concept, right? So my thing is sort of, guerrilla spirituality. Use what you have on hand to do the thing the best that you can, to make the biggest impact with what you have right now, who you are right now. So I've always tried to do that. And yes, if you have the abilities to go and get this or use better materials as time goes on or do whatever, but really in the end, all you really need is your mind, and to make sure that you're moving in the right direction, to be able to identify your target all the time, to stick to your results. What are the results that you're producing? If they're good, stay on task. If they're not, adjust, right? Reacquire the target, constantly check in with yourself to see, am I going toward what I want? Or am I being distracted and pulled off target? So then I readjust and I go back to it again. But I need that mental acuity to be able to do that. So anyway, with this segment, the next 3 days, we're going to look at a way to actually experience these ideas from, and using sort of an ancient
experience these ideas? What do you mean by that?
Some of the ideas about like what we would talk about now is like quantum physics, right? That we're 99 point whatever percent more space, 99999 space, and only that 0.0000 whatever matter, right? So, and you know, we can intellectualize that all we want. We can, if you can do the math, put up the equations and make it come out, and that's awesome. You know, wonderful that science is sort of catching up to what people have been saying for thousands of years, but or at least mystics and adepts. But at the same time, how do we internalize it? How do we experience it really? I mean, it's because you know, if I reach out and give you a smack, you know, dude, it's like
you can't do that on camera.
It's like I just did. Sorry.
It's ridiculous.
It's like, this is the deal, right? It's like it still feels like physical matter hitting physical matter, right? So, but we know our physics tells us, look, you know, it's like there was no physical contact there.
Right.
It was you know.
Oh, there was physical
contact. But there was energy from, you know, the energy field from one to the other was actually the thing that was moving it, right? So, but how, besides that, do we experience it? Because that's what we experience most times, right? We experience our ass sitting on the chair. We experience our feet touching the ground.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's in a lot of ways, like our whole world feels like that.
Because it is. We sense it that way. We perceive it that way. So a lot of this training is about how do we change our perception? Yeah. How do we, and not just change our perception, and again, taking it from that intellectual idea to a visceral state. How do we experience it? That's key, because once you experience something, that's yours. Nobody can take that away from you. They can yak all they want about, you know, oh, well, it's bullshit, or oh, it's, you know, you're hallucinating, or oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. But you can't change somebody who has a real experience. You cannot take that from them.
Yeah,
they're solid in that. You know, it's not something that can be readjusted for them. No matter how much you want to try to explain it away, you can't. It's a true experience is deeper than they can extract from you. You feel it through your whole body, right? So we want to have sort of that experience, and these next 3 days is about giving you a step-by-step process of having that. I want you guys to have that, so that will then give you a respite, because you don't have to think about your want or your desire during this stage. It's literally have this experience, because in the end it will feed into that, because you're going to have this closeness, you're going to have this experience with the infinite that will boost you up, so that you can always come back to this. When you feel like you're just like, oh, I'm doing all these things, but I'm tired, I'm exhausted, how am I going to go on? This is the practice you go to. This is your go-to practice to recharge, to have this experience, and that will give you the strength to keep moving on. And you know, we're going to go through it because it's not really a super technical you know, exercise, but the idea is, again, that we're breaking it into 3 parts, or I'm breaking it into 3 parts, so that basically you understand, you know, each part and can practice each part on that day. And then when we combine them all together, it'll sort of bring you through it in an easier way. And if you need to, then you can go back and look at it and say, oh, you know, this part was a little sticky, so let's go through that again. And so you can go through it a number of times and make it better. Each time you do it, you're going to have a better and better, a more profound experience. That's been my experience with other students, is that this tends to be, this is the camp before the ascent to the top of the mountain.
What do you mean by that?
It's a place where you've done all this work. You've gotten from the base camp to this stage, to this stage. We've gone through 33 steps, right? 33 different practices to go through this. You know, it's a time when we could use a little bit of a respite, and still not lose our momentum, right? This is going to not only give you a bit of a, sort of like looking at the peak, wow, I'm getting closer, things are moving, things are going in this right direction, but I need a bit of a recharge. Do I just keep pushing toward the peak, or do I take a rest here, evaluate, look at the weather, see what's going on before I make my ascent, right? And I think that's a good idea, but why not have both? We can rest in this, and at the same time, it's like a super recharge of our own energetic batteries and our mental state before we make our ascent in these last stages of the practices that we're doing.
Right.
So I love this practice because it just gives everybody a very personal, individual experience, and it can be standalone, but it can also fuel you and give you, a decent place to move from there with being fully recharged, really ready, really, physically ready to do it, mentally ready to do it, and really giving you that last push to the top.
Yeah.
It's the ideal situation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
So you're going to lie down. I usually like this lying down because you want to be as relaxed as possible.
Right.
We could do like we've done with the other ones, sitting up and straight. And when you get really, really good with this practice, you can do this sitting. You can even do this standing. Yeah. If you can get to the point where you can be relaxed, and there's a percentage of you that can stay conscious enough that can keep you in a standing position and be that completely relaxed, you can definitely do this standing. So, but for now, let's do it lying down because it's hard to fall off the floor. So, and when you get really relaxed, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to fall down. And I want you as relaxed as possible, but again, relaxed as possible, but awake and aware, not sleeping. If you're starting to fall asleep, get up, have some coffee, start it again. It's like, don't fall asleep. You want to stay awake and aware doing this, and you want to be as relaxed as possible. Ideally, what we would call profound relaxation, right? Where my body, my senses are offline, my body is asleep, but my mind is awake and aware. That's pretty much that's about as relaxed as it can get with you being conscious.
Right.
So, just as a marker. So, but relax the body. So you're lying, relaxing the body, and then as you do that, you're imagining that your body becomes super porous, not even just the pores in my skin, but that they're even opening up. So I'm imagining that my pores are sort of, if you've ever, look at your skin, see the pores in the skin, and imagine that pore is actually, getting wider, opening more and more, but that's happening all over your body. So you're starting from the skin level. And we're going to go deeper and deeper with each level, right? So the skin opens up, the pores get large, and obviously when the pores are large, more air is getting through and touching different levels of the body, right? So, and then, just break it down. I know there are more layers than this to the body, obviously, but we're going to break it into chunks, right? So the skin, the whole dermis and fat layer and all of that, then down to the muscle layer, and that the muscle layer is opening up, and the cells and the pores and that are actually opening as well. And so there's more spaces. So basically moving then from the muscle layer, to the sensory organs, the eyes, the brain, mouth, to the internal organs, heart, liver, lungs, all of these organs, everything within your body is becoming more and more porous. Right through to the bones, where the bones are becoming porous. So everything in the end, it looks like a U, but like a U that's a sponge. If your name is Bob, I'm sorry, because I have kids, right? Okay, just checking.
No, so I know that you like to watch SpongeBob.
I do like SpongeBob. He's a great guy. So you're lying there, and again, so I'm creating that image in my mind, imagining myself as much as possible into that position.
And when you do it, do you see it? How do you see it? Do you like, is it that, like I'm looking at myself from the outside?
Kind of, yeah. I think it's a combination of both of those things. You know, it's sort of like I can look deeper. Certain areas I'm going to look deeper, like I'll see inside. If it's, let's say, my heart, and I'll sort of look inside and see my heart from that position and see that it's getting more porous and it's expanding and becoming, you know, bigger because there's more space now, right? So, and that basically the end result for today is going to be that you're there imagining yourself to be in that very porous state and just sort of be in that. And the more that you can, you know, imagine that, the better that you can imagine that through your whole body, from the surface layer to the deepest layer, literally through the bone and into the marrow, that everything is expanding and extremely porous. You're going to be at that first stage. That's going to be, you know, an awesome place for you. And as we go on, we're going to see what we're going to do next. But I would stick with that for today. As many times as you want to do it, do it. And then at the end, when you've gotten it to where you want it to be, then it's sort of like the reverse. You just kind of close, everything kind of closes back up. And the reverse is much quicker. It's not like you have to be so, you know, specific about things. You just want to, you know, everything sort of comes back to this solid state, the way we are right now.
And do you always do it like one stage of the body at a time, or do you ever do like, you see like your whole entire body down, skin down to bones all at once expanding, or is it always like first you see the skin kind of expand, then you see the, so you really like focus on it one stage at a time?
I do it, for myself, I do it in layers like that, but I have students that, you know, they'll even do it like they can only do their head first. And so they go through that, and then a different body section, you know, arms and legs, and then torso. And they'll go through the same stages, but just they need to break it down into smaller chunks. And that's okay. I mean, really the end result is all I care about. And so for me, it's easier to see sort of the whole body form and go from the layers of the skin and deeper and deeper and deeper until I hit the core, you know, so the marrow of the bones in the body. So all of that just becomes extremely porous. Again, if you have a hard time imaging that, just think of it as you, but sort of a sponge, right? So it's like sponge-like material. There's bigger and smaller pores. They're not all symmetrical, and you know, there's just different areas, gaps of getting in, so that basically in the end, you know, air can sort of get in and through you. We're making ourselves more and more porous, so that you know, that energy which is in the air will actually be able to pass through and touch as much of us as possible, more than thinking of ourselves as completely contained creatures walking around independently from everything else that's here. I mean, again, a lot of people talk about it, but we don't actually, I haven't seen many practices out there that sort of give us this almost, at least in our minds, a physical connection with everything else that's there by being porous and being, you know, even our internal organs being in contact with the outside environment. Really, the lungs are the only ones that have that when we're in this state, right? So I breathe in air, so that's part of the exterior environment that goes in. But as far as internal organs go, that's the only one that has sort of direct contact with the air. But we want to make our whole body like that, at least in our minds. And where our mind goes, that idea sort of, you know, becomes more of a reality for us. And, you know, we expand that way, and then we bring it back through contraction back to normal, and then we're up and ready to move around. And just notice anything that you might feel during that time, and, or any places that may be need a little bit more attention or less. You know, you might be able to get through the skin really easy because we have pores there, we can see them, right? So that might be easier for you to imagine like that. Don't worry about, you know, being too accurate with, you know, anatomy, physiology. You know, you don't have to worry about that. Just if you have a general idea, that's the best. And just remember that the whole structure from surface to interior is going to be more and more porous, like a sponge. And the idea is, again, that as an end result is that we want to have more contact with what we feel to be, outside of us. So, and then just write down any notes that you have as your experience grows. And again, they can just be simple notes. I don't want people, again, to get too involved in journaling if that's not their thing. If journaling is your thing and you put everything down, that's fine. But for a lot of people, for me, it's like mine are very short and sweet, so it's like I just write down a few notes. This was my experience. I had trouble here, or this was great. I feel like this. I feel energized now, or whatever, or I feel tired, or whatever it is. It's just a few notes to track progress. That's all. So you can look back and not have to think about, or you're not going to fool yourself into thinking, oh, I did better than I thought I did, or I did worse than I thought I did. So it's just when I put that down, it gives me a nice solid baseline to go by. Yeah.
And what's like the minimum amount of time that you spend with this exercise?
Minimum amount of time? I'd probably spend a good 10, 15 minutes with it, give or take. I mean, that would be the minimal amount of time. It may take longer in the beginning. For most people, it does.
Yeah.
But again, you can rend it down to, you can get it to even shorter than that. But I probably wouldn't do it much less than that in the beginning until you get a good feel for it. Just because you do need some time to sort of let your mind go and really sort of expand that idea. It's not just I'm a sponge now. It's like you want to do it layer by layer so that you can, you're really starting to feel that things are opening up. And that's it. So it takes a little bit of time to do that. But it's not excessive.
You could spend a while on it.
Hell yes. I mean, I've spent, hours on this. So you could spend as much time as you feel you need. Sometimes that's really you can get to a point in your practice where that's all you can do. You're so wiped out from so much work or doing whatever, like this is your respite. And so you're recharged. It's like, you're still a battery, but you're not plugged in. So it's like, this is literally a quick recharge of your batteries and more. I mean, this is just scratching the surface of this technique, of the results of this technique. There's so much more to this when you do it consistently. You're going to find it'll become a favorite for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's what we got for today. It's a decent amount.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and
it's perfect.
Then we'll move from there and just have a good time with it. Joyful effort.
Right.
Joyful effort. Don't make it a chore. Don't think, oh, it's visualization. I can't visualize. It's like, don't worry about it. Just do your best. Just be aware of that and give it the idea that it's opening. That's all it is.
Right.
You don't know anatomy, physiology. It's okay. It's like, just do your best. There's muscles. There's skin. Start from there and work in. So, and that's it. So, don't overanalyze it. Just do it. Have the experience. It's more about the experience than it is about technical ability or visualization or any of those things. The experience will come no matter how well you visualize perfectly the anatomy and physiology of yourself.
And a lot of times those like hyper technical details or like trying to be so focused,
they can distract you.
Yeah, it can be like a distraction because you're
Absolutely.
like, oh, I just can't see it, so I'm really trying to like
because
see
then
that
we go back to
part,
force and not power, which is relaxed.
Right.
We're always going back to the relaxation.
That's such a thing. It's like
it's a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially when like you sit down and you feel like your mind is in like a chaotic place from the day or from weird dreams the night before or whatever.
Right.
It's like you're like all feeling all squirrely, and then and you're just trying to like focus on something that you feel is like so specific, and especially with our bodies there's like so much detail, and so trying to like get our minds under control, it's like really sometimes, for me at least, I can really get hung up on you know, trying to really see it as clearly as I can.
Right.
And so, and I, you know, I guess I think I have noticed that, you know, if I really get hung up on that stuff, that it, you know, I don't know, my body, I'll notice, like, I'll be in the middle of doing it, and then I'm like, oh, can I see it? Can I see it? I can see the bones and da da da. And then I'll notice that, like, my body's tense because I'm trying so hard.
Because you're trying so hard. You're forcing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If it's not, again, anytime something isn't moving for me, regardless of what it is.
What do you mean by moving for you?
Anything that I'm trying to do that's not moving forward
Yeah.
toward that goal.
Okay, yeah.
The very first thing that I do is relax. It's got to be your automatic response. The first thing, you know, relax, check your posture. And not just the literal, but, you know, the symbolic idea too. You know, what is your posture? What are you moving toward? You know, literally, am I bent over or am I straight? You know, is my posture on the floor good or not good? It's hard to have a bent back on the floor, but I mean, basically, that's the idea, right? Same thing standing. If things aren't going quite as well as they're supposed to be, I relax and then I check. You know, am I hunched over? Is my posture good? Is it not good? How many people do you see a day where their posture is awful during the day?
Yeah, yeah.
And yet they go, you know, just stand like that for a while. Do the opposite. Do the bad thing and see how you feel after about 5 minutes of that.
Right.
You feel like shit.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, Tony Robbins does all the time, right? He'll have somebody, like, he's talking to somebody and they're talking about how they're depressed and everything, and then he's like, tells the whole audience, like, look at his posture, and the guy's like, well, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And now he's like, okay, now tell me the same thing but standing like this or whatever.
And now we know it's even, I mean, it's a little off the track of what we're doing now, but we know that neuroscience, there was a...
well, we talked about this in one of the previous videos.
With the
Wonder Woman pose.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman pose, and building testosterone that way. 2 minutes of that stance. I mean, so if we extend that idea out, it doesn't, you know, there's a lot less questioning, let's say, about why, you know, yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or any of these other things have the effect that they do of building energy, moving energy, healing the body, because it's specific forms of movement and, you know, breathing at the same time, and balance and strength and flexibility all combined together to produce an organism that is all of those things. Perfect health in motion, right? So it's like, it's not just a literal idea. It's an allegory for, you know, where are you in your life? Are you moving? What is your posture? What is your posture when you think of, you know, your goal and where you are right now? What is your posture toward that goal? You know, what is your posture toward that goal? Am I hanging on the recliner chair and doing the armchair quarterback and going, geez, I really wish I was rich, or I really wish I had a girlfriend, or I really wish I, you know, it's like, you know, change your posture, you know, change your attitude, change your posture toward that thing, you know, start doing something a little bit any day. Do 2 minutes, 2 minutes toward that goal. If it's really a serious goal, I guarantee you 2 minutes will end up being 10. If you do 10 minutes, 10 minutes will end up being 30. And as it builds that momentum, you're going to put more and more into it, and you're going to get closer and closer to that end, closer and closer to that goal. That's really what all of this is. My God, the whole self-help industry is about that. Tony Robbins included. I love that guy. He's great.
Yeah.
But again,
he's the man.
He's the man. But at the same time, every technique, nothing new, old. Same candy bar, different wrapper. NLP, all these things. They're all just old techniques put into modern vernacular. That's it. Show me one technique. One. It's been a challenge forever. One technique from the last 100 years that has been brought into play in the mainstream self-help. And I guarantee you that I can track it back and find the same technique, said in different words, but the same technique done 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. There isn't anything new. It's like, and so if it's easier for you to understand that way, that's fine. But why do we want to get, 10 levels of derivation down when we can go to the original source and say, here's where it started. This is the same thing. Why don't we go to the source and see how that works? I think people are ready for it now. At least the people that we know and our audience is ready for that now. We want the original source. We don't need the pop psychology.
Yeah.
Let's bring it in, let's understand it with the information that we've grown up with. We have more information now. When these things were developed back then, less than 1% of the people were literate. This is a small group. With the population now, look at the information we have available to us at all times. And now science is verifying many of these things.
Right.
So it's like you have that, even if you don't want to go to that place where you feel funny about thinking about, occultism, esoteric stuff, or, bringing in meditation because it might be Buddhist or Taoist or God knows what, it's like,
right. Yeah.
It's so funny to me that we've gotten so flip with everything else,
right.
People slamming the president, on national TV, people, insulting this guy, that guy, whether he deserves it or not, it's just the idea. We've gotten so free with, sexuality of all kinds and, 50 Shades of Grey, blah, 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 it's like it goes on and on and on, all of these things. And yet, as soon as you touch on something that might border on spirituality, it's like, oh my God, don't go to the sacrilege place. It's like, we are more PC about that shit than we are with anything else in our existence.
Right.
Why? It's like, for me, it's very simple. If there is only the one thing, how can one part of the one thing insult it, be sacrilege against the other part? That's like my little finger saying, the thumb sucks on the left hand. It's like, and the thumb's going, oh, I don't know about that. It's like, I'm a little insulted by that. Right. No, it's like, geez, come on.
Yeah.
If we're going to use all this information, if we're going to try to expand our knowledge, meaning our experiential knowledge, experiential. We can't say we know until we've experienced that, literally. So have an experience of it. If we're going to utilize that, how can you, the two don't go together.
It seems like your personal experience is the thing that you hang your hat on, and any kind of names that you attribute to God or whatever is really superficial.
It may not even be superficial to, it's not superficial to other people. The
naming itself.
And again, for me, it just represents an aspect of, the one, whatever name it is, whether, it's an aspect, of the one, if you're going to use, whatever, pick anything, it doesn't matter. And pick any name from any tradition, and that is just a name of an aspect of the one thing. So I don't put any more credence to one than another.
Yeah,
basically.
You seem very comfortable using them interchangeably.
I haven't been struck down yet. Jesus, come on. It's like, I grew up one thing. I've been completely exposed to many others. In-depth exposure, been through initiations and this and that and the other thing into other traditions. I've never been accosted by anything representing something, an aspect of the one that said, "Ooh, you shouldn't do that." I've had plenty of, people in the hierarchical structure say, "Ooh, you shouldn't do that," but I haven't had any entity. I haven't had angelic presence or, you know, deity of any kind come to me personally and say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." And I've been to plenty of places and put myself out there and said, if this is bad, you know, or whatever, I'm asking, you know, give me a sign, come down and tell me, you know, I'll veer off course, you know, or whatever it is that I'm doing at the time. Whatever, I'll adjust myself. Nada. So far so good. And you know what? I've done pretty well. You know, I mean, that's the bottom line. I've done pretty well. So it's, you know, the proof is in the pudding, as my grandma would say. So, you know, well, that's it. So it's like, I think we need to, you know, get over this, you know, idea, being very respectful too. You know, I don't want, it's not a disrespect that I'm calling for. I'm just calling for neutral. And it's like, if I want to call it this, that's fine. If you want to call it that, I don't see people. You know, I mean, we live close to you know, a French-speaking area, right? So I don't see anybody here getting into, you know, a brawl over one guy calling it a chapeau and the other guy calling it a hat. It's okay. We have different languages, we have different traditions. Let's just get over it, have respect for everybody in all of their positions, and just, you know, just move forward with what works for you. And let everybody else take care of themselves. Let them take care of their relationship. You work on your relationship with the one. Call it what you want. And I think you will waste far less energy, and I think you will direct it in a way that's going to be good for you, and you will bring your experiential knowledge up. I think if you do that, you're going to be very pleased with the result.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but the name of the practice that we're doing is called, traditionally, the practice of the presence of God.
Right. Traditionally, that's what it would be.
And so when people go to write this in their journal or whatever.
Oh, sure. Just so they have the reference for it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, you know, and then, but even it could, you know, it's like practice of the presence of fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So but, you know, again, bringing it back to complete the circle. It's like, it's all about the experience. This is all about the experience. So do it, you know, use the practice, do that, you know, think about what I've said, but at the same time, it's not the main point. The main point for this, and especially for this course, is to have the experience. And this is one that I think you're really going to value.
Yeah.
You know, whether you continue or not, you can utilize this with anything that you do.
Yeah. It's really, really good.
It's a great practice. It really is. So, and
awesome.
That's all I got. I mean, it's a kind of like a, you know, 1-2, you know, but it's like,
you want to slap me?
Nah, I made the point. We don't want to be completely, you know, I mean, we got to recognize both sides, right? We don't want to, you know, I don't want it to be airy-fairy either. I don't want it to be so woo-woo that people don't get that the physical part is important. It's just as important. If you, I mean, the whole thing is manifesting something here.
Right.
In the physical, here. Let's not lose track of what we're doing, you know? Yes, there's lots of things that can happen. There's lots of phenomena. Don't get distracted by the phenomena. Enjoy it, engage it, awesome, but keep your end result on target, you know? And so that means the physical, you know, materializing something physical. And I don't mean out of thin air, but it does sort of seem to be like that when all these things start to come together. I mean, it's not like, boom, it's in my hand, but you know, the idea, what we're talking about. I think you understand at this point. When I say that, it means that it comes from a place that you couldn't imagine it coming from. If you can imagine how that's going to happen, it's not going to happen that way. I can guarantee you that. It's going to come from some place where you don't expect it. That's what we call magic. That's why we call it that. Because it comes always from a place you don't expect. That's it. That's all I got for now.
Cool.
All right.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
See you later.